I guess what you would call a food addict, where basically what was going on is that the husband felt extremely insecure about his wife's affection, and so he would bring home cakes and ice cream. He said, "This is only for me. You're not to touch it because you're not supposed to eat it, right?" And of course, what would happen is there'd be a quart of Haagen-Dazs going down.
Dog would eat it.
Right. But the thing is that the uglier she got, the, I guess, more secure he felt. And the problems came in. The reason they came to me was because she really wanted to make an effort to lose weight, and that's when he panicked.
Huh.
You know, so that's when we're speaking about an enabler, and that's when we can say, don't bring the cake in, don't bring the candy in, don't bring the ice cream in.
Yeah, he's afraid of it. He's afraid of her getting better. But in this instance, this woman I know had the good bad fortune of her mother's boyfriend being killed in a car accident 8 months ago. I said, you know, he's a wild driver, 2-lane highway out in Warwick. Someone came in off the it's a stop sign, but they came in a hurry, and he decided to pass somebody in this narrow road in the middle of winter, and a head-on collision, he's dead. So I said, was he on something? Well, she didn't know. I said, I believe this is an instance of pot smoking, you know, where there's a lot of delayed reaction, and reaction time is not too reliable. Is there any connection between, you know, the danger of the driver and his being killed, you know, his using something and then going to drive a quick little run down the road to get something? So she has that fear, you know, because I think there's a lot of denial, as you know, in most drug usage. In fact, it's used to cover up when one is afraid of, usually, which is beneath the addiction, is something that is also not dealing with, way down there. But when the fear starts percolating through, I think you have more of a chance.
And then I noticed you pointing, you picked up your ears when she said something underneath the addiction.
Yeah, the thing at this point, in what we're talking about now, we want to leave that alone. Because if this woman's judgment needs to be bolstered and clarified, and you're on the right track, because we don't want to have her dead and have a little more insight. We want to have her alive so that
she can work on it.
And it's a terrible problem to sort through the layers of denial. So we want to start at the very top layer of denial and work down. That way, these people are confused in their thinking, and so we have to gear our level of intervention to the maximal clarity that we can achieve. So I think that's an essential ingredient.
And have you found that they listen to you when you say, look, you must stop drinking, you cannot even have
no, you can't drive. No, you're saying don't drive while drunk.
Exactly.
First level is you're going to get killed. Okay, so you want to drink, we'll discuss that. But you're not to get it. But they get into the car, that's out of range. That's out of limits.
Atlanta's sort of got the idea, which is I don't tell a patient to stop drinking. What I do is I say, take care of your safety. Don't drive and drink. Don't operate machinery. You know, don't go to that part of the town drunk. And I want you to tell me about your drinking experiences, and I want you to decide on your own whether it makes sense for you to continue to do this. And, you know, this is a process, the technical term for it is motivational interviewing, but it's so you hit the denial little by little rather than boom. Nobody likes to be told, you know, you're an alcoholic, you have to stop drinking. So you get this sort of, you know, either they surrender and give up, or they say, the heck with you, what do you know?
See, what I'm intrigued about is that very often, at least in my experience, many people who are addicts are trying to commit suicide. And therefore, when I try to tell them, take care of yourself because you can die, it falls on deaf ears, because consciously, of course, they know that. But if they are motivated to really kill themselves, whether it's passing a stop sign, whether it's you know, drinking themselves to death, whether it's smoking themselves to death, the words really seem to fall on deaf ears.
But let me give you another alternative. No, let me give you another alternative. I'll give you another alternative.
Okay.
They're trying to avoid killing themselves, but they want to kill themselves. But they want to kill themselves in a big hurry, fast, like with a gun, dead. So what they do is they do the little suicidal actions for a long time, which eventually kills them, but it keeps them from making the big suicidal gesture now. Like I know a guy, he drinks, he smokes, he drinks, he's got the drunk, and he switches but he doesn't kill himself yet.
So, I mean, so is ambivalence. I mean, the person, if he wanted to kill himself, he'd just kill himself.
Right.
So half of them wants to live and half of them wants to die.
Right.
So we need to push him a little bit in the direction of living.
Yeah.
But
and again, if you just do it massively and say, boom, you got to live, otherwise you're an idiot, you're going to kill yourself, that's too strong. So you want to nudge him along towards life.
How would you nudge?
And Herb, this is sort of the secret of my work. It's sort of, I do kindergarten therapy, basically.
Okay.
Not that my patients are kindergartners, but I've had to break down what you and I assume as sort of well-educated, grown-up adults. Very often, addicted people don't really understand the concepts of taking care of themselves. And so where you and I say, oh, gee, that's obviously suicidal, you're killing yourself, that is not really understood by many of these patients. So in a sense, we have to find a tactful and empathic way to say, you know what, you really don't know how to take care of yourself. And you know what, part of this treatment is going to be me helping you find the ways to take care of yourself.
But I would still add that you still have to say to them, and maybe you're worth it. Because I really believe that they will not do it because they're not worth it. Like some of the most arrogant person I know who is a drinker, smoker, he's better than anyone. He's brilliant. He puts everybody down. You know how he shows he's arrogant? He makes less money than anybody for anything. No matter what they do, he makes less. He shows that they're all greedy slobs, you know? But this guy underneath it all, what does he think he is? You know, a four-letter word. But he doesn't know even that, right?
Well, something that Dan mentioned a moment ago caught my attention because it's one of the few things that give me hope with some addicts. That is, when you talk about kindergarten therapy, to me that strikes a familiar chord because in many ways, even though these people are chronologically adults, emotionally, they're like children. And again, in my experience, many alcoholics had parents who were depriving. And one of the things that happens in therapy is that sometimes you can become like a surrogate parent and really reparent the person. And the reason that I think sometimes, at least, I've been effective is that I've been able to give the person the kind of experience of caring that they really long for and for which the symptoms of addiction are a substitute. And they're sometimes willing to give up the addictions if they get something that's more positive. And as you were saying, giving them a sense that they're worthwhile, that you care about them, and that they really deserve to have higher self-esteem.
I completely agree. And that's sort of the basis of the treatment. So any confrontation comes out of the basis of concern and caring. So, and I gear it carefully to the time when I think the patient can hear it.
Okay. Boy, it takes a lot of skill to do that. And it seems like you've had much more success than many people.
It's been actually very gratifying. I've enjoyed, it's 25 years, it's hard to believe, but
it goes quickly, right?
But they wouldn't have come to see you if they weren't already motivated by something, even if it's to get someone else off their back. Even that's a motive, you know. Okay, she's bothering me, you know, she keeps bothering me about my drinking. I hardly drink at all. What is she carrying on about? Help me with this thing. And before you know it, it's like, remember that Chinese finger puzzle? You put your finger in, then you couldn't get it out. It was a straw, you know.
And the more you pull, the
the more, okay, so then now, because also maybe they begin to become aware of what they're losing by their drinking, you know, because very often when you have an addiction, you focus on the thing that you need at the moment, the candy or the whatever it is that you bury yourself in. But you don't see that by doing this, you're getting heavy, or you're getting sick, or your lungs are beginning to collapse on themselves, or you're spending all your money gambling, or you're picking up sexual diseases. But whatever it is that you throw yourself into in this moment of focus where everything else is lost, then afterwards you have to pay the price. So sometimes you begin to take a little bit of time looking at the price.
Did you bring up another issue, which I don't think we'll have time to discuss today, which is if you see somebody who's addicted, but who isn't motivated to come, how do you help a person like that? And I'm thinking, for example, of people who make kind of a compromise, about living and dying, but rather than killing themselves quickly, like they'll smoke themselves to death, because that takes, what, 10, 20, 30 years before you get emphysema and die. But if you know that there's somebody you care about who you see is smoking up a storm, and they're not coming to you on their own, how do you deal with a situation like that?
Well,
or do you?
I think there is, you're not a therapist at that point, you're another human being. Right. And if I care about that person, I'll try to be tactful and maybe send literature, or there are self-help quit guides that are free that you can download off the internet. And one of the things is, it's important if you say you need help with something or you have a problem, that along with that comes the promise that there's something that will work. Right. So I think it's an obligation, if you're bringing smoke into somebody's attention, you need to have a resource available that you can. So if I were to bring that topic up, I would say, the patch works, or Alcoholics Anonymous has special groups for smokers, or you can go to Lung USA and download some quit guides.
I haven't found that too helpful for the most part, because they're either in denial, except that there's one thing that I have found does work sometime, because you have to arouse their level of anxiety. So, for example, if I see a mother who is smoking heavily, to say it's not good for your health and you should get help doesn't work. But if I say, look, what's going to happen to your children? Look what's going. Then, if you can make her feel guilty enough, if you can kind of arouse a little bit of a superego, if you will, then sometimes you can repel a person.
But Dan is talking also about the thing called confrontation, where loving people only do this. Out of love, I'm in terrible pain, I can't bear to see you doing this. Yes. But they have to hear that, how much worry you feel, how concerned you feel, and also how much pain they're causing you. And then that's it. It's still in their hands. What are you going to do?
Well, it's eventually in their hands, of course. But then the issue is, can we be of some assistance in helping propel them to want to get better, really?
It's one of the interesting things about our discussion is that, Herb, you're talking about sort of all or none. And I break it down into little pieces. So if I'm in the field where like in my classes in school, I teach a course on addiction. So instead of saying, you're overweight, you got a smoking problem, you have an alcohol problem, to my students, you could tell if they're overweight, right? So instead of saying anything like that, I'm clever. I give an assignment and I say, I want you to pick a habit of yours that you want to change.
Good. And guess what? I told you at the beginning, we run out of time pretty quickly here. We have less than 1 minute left on the show, believe it or not. So viewers, we hope you enjoyed the show and found it informative. We really want to point out to you that addiction doesn't have to be a terminal condition, that there are people who can be of help. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write to us at the email address, which will appear very shortly on your screen. So for the panel and myself, so long for now.
And then what happens?